Lenox Lounge, Harlem, September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand was shaking as he wrapped his fingers around the pistol grip. $50,000. That was the price the 5 families put on Bumpy Johnson's head. And Sam, Bumpy's bodyguard for 5 years, the man Bumpy called brother, had taken the contract. The plan was simple. Walk into Lenox Lounge, wait until Bumpy was distracted, 1 shot to the back of the head, disappear into the night. Sam walked in. The jazz band was playing. The club was packed, 300 people. Bumpy was at his usual corner table, back turned, vulnerable. Sam drew his weapon, aimed, pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. The room went silent. The jazz band stopped mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. Bumpy took a slow sip of his cognac. Then he set the glass down gently and turned around in his chair. He looked at Sam, just looked at him. And in that look was something more terrifying than anger, disappointment. Then Bumpy said 5 words that would become legend. "I've been counting on you." Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet, because in that moment Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything. What nobody knew, what history books won't tell you, is that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. And what he did in those 3 weeks didn't just save his life, it changed the rules of power in Harlem forever. To understand what happened that night at Lenox Lounge, you need to understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1958. He wasn't just another gangster. He was Harlem's protector, the man who stood between his community and the wolves that wanted to devour it. By the late 50s, Harlem was under siege. The Italian mob, specifically the 5 families, had been trying to take over the neighborhood's numbers racket for years. Numbers was big money. Poor folks betting nickels and dimes that added up to millions, and the Italians wanted every penny. But there was a problem. His name was Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had built something the Italians couldn't understand. He didn't rule through fear alone. He ruled through respect. When Harlem families couldn't pay rent, Bumpy paid it. When police harassed black businesses, Bumpy made phone calls that made the harassment stop. When Italian mobsters tried to muscle in on local operations, Bumpy pushed back hard. The families had tried everything. They'd sent enforcers. Bumpy sent them back in ambulances. They tried negotiating. Bumpy told them Harlem wasn't for sale. They tried bribing politicians. Bumpy had better connections. By 1958, the families were desperate. And desperate men make dangerous decisions. Frank Costello, the most powerful mob boss in New York, called a meeting. All 5 families sent representatives. The topic: the Bumpy Johnson problem. "We've tried force, we've tried money, we've tried politics," Costello said, his voice cold and flat. "None of it works. This man is untouchable." "So what do you suggest?" asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned forward. "We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts completely, and we turn them." That's when someone mentioned Big Sam. Samuel Big Sam Foster had been with Bumpy since 1953. 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He'd been there when Bumpy's mother died. He'd been at Bumpy's side through wars with Dutch Schultzen's old crew, through police raids, through everything. If anyone could get close enough to kill Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam. The families sent Tony the Collector, Maroney to make the approach. Tony was a specialist. He didn't break legs or crack skulls. He found weaknesses, and every man had a weakness. August 20th, 1958, 3 weeks before the shooting. Big Sam was leaving his apartment on 132nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window rolled down. Tony Maroney sat in the back seat, smiling like an insurance salesman. "Sam, right? Big Sam? I heard a lot about you." Sam's hand moved toward his waistband where he kept a .45. "Who's asking?" "A friend, someone who wants to make you a very wealthy man." Tony gestured to the empty seat. "5 minutes. Hear me out. If you don't like what I say, you walk away. No hard feelings." Sam should have walked away right then, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. He got in. Tony didn't waste time. "You're a smart man, Sam. You know how this works. You're loyal to Bumpy, and that's admirable. But loyalty doesn't pay for your daughter's medical bills." Sam's jaw tightened.
While Sam was gone, Bumpy and his most trusted associate, a man named Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They found Sam's gun in a shoebox under the bed, exactly where Bumpy knew it would be. They swapped it with Victor's dummy gun. Sam would never know the difference. Now Bumpy had to wait. He had to let Sam make his move. Because if Bumpy confronted Sam before the assassination attempt, Sam could deny everything. The Italians could find another traitor. The cycle would continue. No, Bumpy needed Sam to pull the trigger. He needed Sam to commit. And then, in that ultimate moment of betrayal, Bumpy would reveal the truth, not just to Sam, but to every person in that room, to all of Harlem, to the 5 families. The message would be clear. You can't kill Bumpy Johnson, because Bumpy Johnson is always 3 moves ahead. The confrontation. September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m., Lenox Lounge. The club was packed that night. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's future. Bumpy was at his usual corner table with 2 city councilmen discussing a new housing development in Sugar Hill. He wore an impeccable gray suit, his trademark fedora resting on the table beside an untouched glass of Hennessy. Big Sam arrived at 11:30. He'd been drinking, not enough to be drunk, but enough to steady his nerves. In his jacket pocket was the .38 Special, the gun he'd been carrying for 5 years, the gun he thought would make him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself near the bar, watching, waiting. Bumpy had his back turned, focused on the conversation, vulnerable. At 11:47, Sam made his move. He walked through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. Nobody noticed. Sam was always near Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His presence was normal, expected. Sam came up behind Bumpy's chair, 6 feet away, then 4, then 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first. His eyes went wide, but before he could shout a warning, Sam had already aimed at the back of Bumpy's head and pulled the trigger. Click. The sound of a firing pin hitting nothing echoed in that suddenly silent room. The jazz band stopped mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people turned to look at Big Sam, standing there with a useless gun in his shaking hand, and Bumpy Johnson, sitting calmly, not even flinching. Bumpy took a slow sip of his cognac. Then he set the glass down gently and turned around in his chair. He looked at Sam, just looked at him. And in that look was something more terrifying than anger. Disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said quietly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet, because in that moment Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything, the approach from Tony Maroney, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. And instead of killing Sam, instead of disappearing him into the river, Bumpy had let him walk into this room and pull that trigger. Let him reveal himself to 300 witnesses. Let him destroy his own reputation, his own honor, in front of the entire community. The revelation. Sam's gun clattered to the floor. His legs gave out. He sank to his knees. "I'm sorry, God, Bumpy. I'm sorry. My daughter." "I know about your daughter," Bumpy interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it carried through the silent room. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't take care of my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He dropped it on the table. "Keisha's medical bills, all of them, paid in full this morning. There's also a check in there for $5,000, for your family, for whatever you need." Sam's eyes filled with tears. But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to know," Bumpy said. "I needed to know if you'd choose money over loyalty, if you'd choose their 50,000 over our brotherhood." He paused. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He was not a tall man, 5'9", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet tall. "You're going to leave Harlem tonight. You're going to take your family and you're going to disappear. I don't care where. But if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear your name again, there won't be a second chance. Do you understand?" Sam nodded, tears streaming from his face. "And Sam," Bumpy's voice dropped even lower, "when the Italians ask you what happened here tonight, you tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he's always known. You tell them they can't buy loyalty in Harlem. And you tell them if they ever try something like this again, I won't be this merciful." Sam stood on shaking legs, picked up his useless gun, and walked out of Lenox Lounge. He would leave New York that night and never return. The last anyone heard, he was working construction in Detroit, a broken man carrying the weight of his betrayal for the rest of his life. The message. After Sam left, Bumpy turned to face the room. 300 people stared at him in silence. They'd just witnessed something impossible. They'd watched a man try to assassinate Bumpy Johnson, and they'd watched Bumpy turn that assassination into a lesson.
"Let me make something clear," Bumpy said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can divide us. They think they can take Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter." He picked up his cognac glass. "They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was, it never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who thinks they can walk into my neighborhood and buy my people, they're gonna learn what Big Sam just learned." He paused. "We're not the ones who need protection. They are." Bumpy raised his glass to Harlem and to loyalty that can't be bought. 300 people raised their glasses to Harlem. The jazz band started playing again. Conversations resumed. Within minutes, it was as if nothing had happened, except everything had happened. Full circle moment. Word of that night spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He'd let it play out. He'd made a traitor reveal himself in front of 300 witnesses. And he'd done it all without spilling a drop of blood. The 5 families called an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious, not at Bumpy,
at Tony Maroney for failing. But Carlo Gambino saw something else. "We can't beat this man," Gambino said quietly. "We've tried everything. Force didn't work, money didn't work, turning his own people didn't work. Every time we move against him, he's already seen it coming." "So what do we do?" Costello demanded. Gambino lit a cigar. "We leave Harlem alone. We focus on Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. But Harlem belongs to Bumpy Johnson, and trying to take it from him is just going to cost us more money and more men." It was the first time the five families had ever backed down from a territorial dispute, but they had no choice. Bumpy Johnson had proven something that night at Lenox Lounge. He wasn't just a gangster, he was a strategist, a chess player who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't play chess with a grandmaster unless you're ready to lose. Life lesson. The story of Big Sam's betrayal became legend in Harlem. People told it for decades, passed it down to their kids, their grandkids. It became more than just a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about staying 3 steps ahead, about what real power looks like. Bumpy Johnson lived another 10 years after that night. He died in 1968, not from a bullet, but from a heart attack. Ironically, in the same Lenox Lounge where he'd faced down Big Sam. But here's the thing. Bumpy proved something that night that most people miss. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's knowing what's coming before your enemy does. It's turning their plan into your victory. It's playing chess while they're still learning checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Bumpy? He went back to his corner table, finished his cognac, and kept being the king of Harlem. One click, one sound, one moment that changed everything. Because sometimes the loudest noise isn't a gunshot. It's the sound of betrayal meeting its consequences.